This is a special request episode. We're going to talk about Benedict Spinoza, or Baruch Spinoza, or Beno Spinoza, or De Spinoza, because he was from Portugal. Well, his family was in Portugal. He was Dutch, born in about 1632. You've probably never heard of him, am I right? And if I'm right, then you really need to hear today's show. But if I'm wrong, if you have heard of Spinoza, you probably are aware of him because of a quote attributed to Einstein. A reporter is supposed to have asked Einstein, do you believe in God, Professor? And Einstein is supposed to have replied, I believe in the God of Spinoza. Well, who is this Spinoza? And what's so special about his God that Einstein says he believes? To answer these questions, we'll be talking philosophy. Though born in 1632 and generally considered one of the great rationalists of the 17th century, there's a sense in which maybe the best way to understand Spinoza is as the last great medieval philosopher. I say this because unlike later philosophers, Spinoza is very concerned with the problem of substance. The idea that there is some underlying substrata that supports all the qualities. This substance is indiscernible. We can't see it. We just know it's there because we know that there has to be something permanent. And this goes all the way back to Aristotle. Well, it goes all the way back to the Eleatics. Some portion of the world, maybe not you, but maybe you, wants to see that there's something permanent and lasting in the world. They see change all around them, but they understand there has to be some kind of continuity if we're going to talk about identity through time, if we're going to understand the universe as having something permanent and eternal about it. And it's been suggested, at least beginning with Aristotle, that substance is this permanent thing, this everlasting thing. Qualities change, but the underlying something, that substance that holds all the qualities together to make this object or that object and you and me, that substance is permanent. On the other hand, we have the popular Western conception of God, the divine, that the divine is everywhere, omnipresent, knows everything, omniscient, can do anything, omnipotent. And in general, we think that God means well. That's not so important for us today, that God be omnibenevolent or well-meaning, all-loving, whatever. Set that aside. Not so important. What is important are these other components. Because basically, we're going to walk over the pieces. Spinoza is going to tell us that everything is God. There is a school of thought referred to as Pantheism. This is God is in everything. Pan, all, in, and theism, God. God is in everything, Pantheism. Spinoza has it just the other way around. Spinoza has it further than that, though. It's further than just the other way around. Well, okay, let's talk about it. The doctrine is usually called Pantheism. All God. God is all there is. Now, how can this be true? Well, let's take a look at those things we were saying a minute ago. God is all-powerful. This means God has all possible attributes. If there was some attribute God didn't have, some quality God didn't have, then there would be something God couldn't do. God can be green, God can be hot, God can pick up sticks. God can do anything. But that means God has all the qualities. Well, all the qualities that there are. There are some things that we call qualities that aren't in fact qualities, but are the absence of a quality. We can talk about dark and we can talk about light. Well, light is light. Dark is not having the light. Good and evil. There isn't any such thing as evil. Evil is just not having good. Evil itself is not a quality. It's the absence of a quality. God has all the qualities. Now you understand that in Spinoza's mind, as indeed there is in the mind of most philosophers of the day, this idea of substance, a something, a je ne sais quoi, something I know not what. This substance is where qualities rest. You can't have a quality without a substance. Can you have a substance without a quality? Well, again, doesn't seem so. Now, we've seen that God has all the attributes. He has all the qualities. But he's everywhere, omnipresent. So he has all the substance, too. If there were some substance that didn't have God, or perhaps better put, if there was some substance that God didn't have, then God wouldn't be everywhere, and God's everywhere, so God has all the substance. God has all the substance. God has all the qualities. What does that mean? Well, let's take another step to the side. Going back to the beginning, we have the great dictum from Parmenides that from nothing, nothing comes. Nihil ex nihilo fit. You can't get something from nothing. So if there's something, and there's substance, where did it come from? Well, it came from the one and only source of substance, God. So if something was made from something, it had to have been God making something from God. In brief, then, for Spinoza, all substance is God. God has all qualities. What does that mean for the rest of us, the rest of the world? Okay. When it's generally understood, because Einstein was not a systematic philosopher, it's generally understood that when Einstein said, I believe in the God of Spinoza, he's saying, I believe in nature as God. And indeed, this isn't too far removed from what I think Spinoza really meant. When we say nature as God, in the minds of most people, what we're thinking of is some kind of personified universe, like Lovelock's Gaia hypothesis, where he suggests that the earth is just really one living entity. We're just suggesting, when we say nature is God, that all of the universe is just one living entity, God. That's not exactly what Spinoza has in mind. Do not think that Spinoza means to equate the divine with the extended physical universe. The divine is not merely physical. The divine is not merely the observable universe. The divine is infinite in all ways and extended in all capacities. The substance is infinite. The qualities are infinite. The divine is infinite. The laws of nature are things that we can discover, that are within the human mind as something we can understand. The divine goes far beyond all that. Perhaps the easiest way to understand what's going on here is to take a look at one of the charges against Spinoza that led to his excommunication. His excommunication, who ever heard of an excommunicated Jew? Excommunicated from the synagogue at Amsterdam because he was an atheist. The man who thinks everything is God is an atheist? How can anybody think such a thing? The traditional theist, whether a monotheist or a polytheist, the traditional theist tends to think that there are two kinds of substance in the world, the divine and the secular. The atheist says there's only one kind of thing in the world, namely the secular. But the pantheist, and as I say, most dramatically, Spinoza, says no. There's just one kind of substance in the universe, and that substance is divine. Now, from the standpoint of the polytheist, the theist, the monotheist, who says there's two substances, when someone says there's just one substance, that means they don't believe in God. Oh, yes, says Spinoza, I believe in God. And the traditional theist goes, well, how can you say that? You think there's only one kind of thing, and I'm not God. So if I'm real, and I am, then you obviously are an atheist. Even just saying that, oh, you think God is the trees and the bushes and the flowers, sounds to a theist of a traditional bent like atheism. You don't really believe in something beyond human beings. Now, this is wrong. This is a misunderstanding of Spinoza. For Spinoza, when he says God is nature, he's not saying that the natural laws around us describe the divine. Rather, he is saying that God is essence. God is everything. For Spinoza, like most philosophers before the 19th century, essence precedes existence. That is, the categories that a thing can fit into are in the world, in the universe, in the cosmos, before the thing itself is. Now, strictly speaking, of course, for Spinoza, the two are the same because everything is God. But for the rest of the universe, it can be understood. Essence precedes existence. First, there is God. Everything else is simply an expression of God. But God is the existence. God is the essence. Everything else is merely accidental, merely the result of the divine decision process, the divine creative process. So don't confuse God with the universe. When we say of Spinoza, God is nature. Rather, God is essence. God is what everything is. That if there is no God, then there would be nothing at all. The atheist says there is everything. There just isn't any God. Spinoza is saying exactly the opposite. There isn't anything except God. What implications does this have? Well, perhaps the most important thing is that for Spinoza, as for Leibniz and a lot of the rationalists, there is no such thing as evil. Evil is the absence of good. God is all good. All that there is God, so everything is good. You think something is evil? That's because you don't understand. Why don't you understand? You're God, aren't you? But God in a mode that doesn't understand. You could understand. All you have to do is give yourself over. And then you'll see that everything is all right. Again, that wonderful, wonderful, not paradox, because there's nothing paradoxical about it, but it's counterintuitive. The idea that the good free will is the one that isn't free. That the good curiosity is the one that isn't really curious. We're only supposed to take whatever God gives us to do and do it to the best of our abilities. And if we'll just do that, then we'll see. We'll learn. We'll be good. I hope hearing this will open a few doors for you and open a few thoughts to you. We too quickly jump just between these two ideas of theism and atheism. There is this third reality, this third approach, pantheism. A lot of people aren't aware of it. Some people want to draw parallels here with Eastern thought. A lot of Eastern thinking has a pantheism to it. But I don't want to equate them quite so easily in that I feel like Spinoza's point of view is derived directly from the medieval approach of essences and substances and qualities. That there's nothing here that needs to go beyond the simple extrapolation of, well, if God is infinite, then he must have all the substance, because if there was any substance that wasn't God, then God wouldn't be infinite. If God is all-powerful, then he must have every power, and therefore there are no powers left over for anybody else to have, because if he didn't have all the power, you see what I'm saying? It's just a logical conclusion to an already existing Western tradition and needs no reference to something beyond it. And the something beyond it is not quite as logically derived. It's more an intuitive thing. So, well, we'll come back to Eastern thinking. I've been promising I'd do a little something with that. Another special request coming up. As for now, you just keep on talking philosophy, okay? Thanks. Special thanks go to George Hales, executive producer. If you want to be part of the support team, please go to patreon.com/talkingphilosophy for more information. A special shout out to format consultant Nora Barnes and story consultant Andrew Beeman Cavallaro, without whom this experience would be much less rich. And an additional thank you to Andrew this week, for he's the one who suggested this delightful topic.